right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the podcast that is yet to be named. We're gonna get right into it today, because this could be a long episode, could be a short episode, we have no idea. This is our episode discussing Attack on Titan Chapter 139, and
Really, probably just the manga in general.
yeah, like it's probably gonna also serve as a full series review. Yeah, so I guess wasting no real time. We're just gonna get into this kind of. I guess like we're gonna have a more structured format this time around because we want to, or at least I have a lot of notes that I want to give myself, and I don't wanna miss anything.
He's got like
Too much.
5 times the amount. Like I have a page in this notebook. This man's got like
9 pages, 10
nine-
pages.
9
I mean, I
pages.
don't agree with all of them anymore, but
he's gonna go first. If you couldn't pick up on that.
He told me I was gonna let you go first, but
No, I want you to go first because then it'll probably give me a little bit more to talk about.
all right. So first of all, I'm gonna analyze this in 2 ways. Okay, the first way is politically, like the politics of the world, and then I'm gonna analyze the characters. So basically, this whole story, the way I perceive it, is, and I think that I should preface this by saying I think the ending being the way it is and as disappointing or as kind of like underwhelming as it is, I feel like that's kind of the point.
Same.
But yeah, so this whole story is about hatred and why hatred is bad.
Yeah.
So essentially, in this world, the Eldians were so hated to the point where and obviously it would be nice if they could talk. Armin, if he could go and just meet with Marley and just have a diplomatic discussion, figure it all out, that'd be fantastic. Wasn't gonna happen. Literally, if he showed up and was like, "I'm from Paradis," just dead.
Yeah.
They'd shoot him. So that wasn't an option for him. And then so basically, when you get to a point where there's so much hatred that your only options are either, basically kill, which was Eren's plan, or be killed, which was Zeke's plan.
Or in theory, Zeke's plan.
Well, yeah, kind of. Well,
It was
essentially,
kill the future.
yeah. Well, I mean, more like kill, like your race dies or their race dies.
Yeah.
Like that's the only option that
That's
you
a much
have.
better way to put it.
Yeah. So, essentially, oh, hold on. Let me just make sure. Yeah. So basically, this whole thing was supposed to be essentially saying don't let things get this far, because it creates such a twisted world to the point where the morally good side winning made a worse world. Like if Eren had successfully completed the rumbling, killed everybody except for Paradis, objectively the world would be in a better place. So you throw away all the morals, but the fact that the good side won, like the Alliance, regardless of how you feel, they were the morally good side, put the world in a worse spot. So the whole thing, I mean, people have been pointing it out, like, oh, the world's in a horrible place now. It's like, yeah, that's the point. Like, you're supposed to say, wow, we don't want to live in a world that's like this. We should take steps to make sure that we never create a world like this. So now moving into the character aspect of this. And I need to preface the character aspect by saying, why do we care about countries, like the country that we live in, because personally, America itself, don't give a fuck. Like
Same.
But if I say that I randomly I'm in England or something, and then all of a sudden America just gets fucking nuked, like that shit's off the map, it's dead. I wouldn't be sad like, oh no, my country's gone. I'd be like, oh no, my friends and family are gone.
Yeah.
Like you care about the people that you're close to. So all the times throughout the manga when Eren's like, I'm doing this for Paradis, I'm not gonna let Paradis's fate be left up to chance, it's like no. He didn't want to let his friends' fate be left up to chance. and at the same time, he also wanted them to be free to try to stop him. Like, he's like, he said that you were free to try to stop me, because freedom's important to him as well. So his goal was to complete the rumbling, but because of the Attack Titan power, he knew that wasn't going to happen. So essentially, then looking at that, and obviously he couldn't kill his friends to make it happen, because that would defeat the whole point for him.
Yeah.
So he created the best possible scenario where it at least ensures that his friends are safe. The world is fucked. Like, it is not in a good spot, but his friends, like, they're heroes to everyone else who's still alive, and they're at least safe on Paradis because Historia is gonna, like, ensure that they're okay. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think they could live there. Like, someone would probably try to assassinate them, but, like,
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, like, they'd at least be able to sit down at a diplomatic mission and, like, talk about it.
That, and they know the truth. They're the only ones that actually know what happened.
Yeah. So then, basically, they're in an okay spot. The world really isn't. Which, of course, like, it's kind of clear. Aaron's like, I don't really know what's gonna happen from this point forward. Which people are like, that's a bad thing. I'm like, no. I mean, that has been a theme of the show. Like, Levi in season 1, he's like, you have to make a choice. You don't know how things are going to turn out, but you have to make it and don't look back. That's what Aaron did. And then now he's free of the fact that, like, he like relentlessly pursued a pretty impossible thing.
Yeah.
He's free of that, which is symbolized by the bird.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's probably a few things I missed there that we'll get into later, but yeah.
I mean, yeah, overall, like, I agree with you. I mean, I actually I had a lot of similar things in my notes, but, I just didn't have 9 pages of it. But yeah, I agree with you. Them having the morally good side win just makes it show it. In my opinion, adds more realism. It makes it more realistic. You know what I mean? Because even if in the real world, whoever is the morally good side, for example, like during World War II, us, the Allies, the morally good side, won, but then that led to the Cold War.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, because it's never just like a full-on solution. Like, you're never going to stop unless you did something so drastic as the rumbling, and that, I mean, that's obviously the point. It's like, you're not, I mean, really, even in season 1, like that conversation that Pixis had with Eren, where it was, Eren's like, yeah, basically, until there's only one person left, people are always going to be fighting.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, that's just the point. I mean, really, I mean, because even like, let's say that, Eren did complete the rumbling, 100%, everyone's gone. Give it 200 years at the most, there'd be more fighting.
Oh yeah.
There'd be like Eldian Group A, Eldian Group B. Maybe it would be like, the people that were in Wall Sheena fighting against the ones in Wall Maria or something like that. Like, there'd be some way that people would find to, like, have different races.
Or have different ideals or ideas or whatever the hell they wanted to have. But I mean, overall, I thought the ending was safe and very predictable. I mean, you predicted it. You hit the nail right on the head with it. But of course, my theory was a bit more like abstract, where I feel like it still could have been extremely viable, but at least the first half of the last chapter could have like remained the same. The second half of the last chapter would have needed to been changed. So my theory was that Isayama would essentially pull a Harry Potter.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, instead of Mikasa killing Eren, they would think they're killing Eren, but in reality, they're just essentially getting rid of the centipede thing.
Okay.
Overall, but then that would lead like Eren to like go into hiding and essentially survive, but still wrap up the rumbling. Essentially, the rumbling would stop, the Titans would be gone, and essentially, and the whole thing with the new peace group that's going around, that could still exist, but essentially Eren would have just been alive.
Yeah.
And for example, with that theory that he's the father of Historia's child, that Isayama could have left that off open ended, to where it still would have made us think, well, is he the father? Like, it still would have, he would have thrown in that question just unsolved.
Yeah, which I think that's like it's interesting that people took that as far as it was,
Yeah.
and I don't know if that is our fault or if that's Isayama's fault.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, I mean, it was there enough that it could be something, but I think at the same time there is a chance that it was literally just the reason that she didn't become a Titan and like Zeke's sort of thing didn't happen earlier. Uh, I mean, and in general, like maybe there's still a certain way where like in Isayama's head, like maybe there is something with like Ymir kind of being reincarnated as the baby, like
Yeah.
I mean they didn't clearly state that, they didn't even really imply that,
Mm-hmm.
but it could make sense considering that they also kind of implied that Aaron's a bird now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible.
But I've seen things on that too, saying like, "Oh, Aaron's a bird now," being
Yeah.
like, "No, he's just represented as a bird." Like, we don't know. Like, is he a fucking bird now? Like,
Yeah.
like did he reincarnate into a bird, or
Yeah.
is it just the metaphorical sense?
And I think, I mean, it could even be a mix, because I mean there are plenty of times, like I know in my experience there's been things that have happened that like people take as something more than it is, like when they're
Oh, yeah.
grieving.
Oh,
I mean, like, when my dad died, there was the time that I think like there was a piece of like a kilt that she just randomly found on the floor somewhere, and it was like something that my dad had like cut off of something at some point. I don't know what it was, but she's like, "Oh wow, I have no idea what this would be here. It must be like a sign." And I'm like, "Maybe, but like it could just be like a meaningful thing that like it's a coincidence." Like
Mm-hmm.
like the whole thing with, especially with Armin catching the feather, it's like that literally could have just been a bird dropping a feather, but like just because of the symbolism behind it, that's the way that you interpreted the thing, which I think is nice in a way. I mean, it is a little weird that the bird's like, I'm gonna grab that scarf and just like lightly pick it up a little bit,
Yeah.
move it over here, and then drop it.
Yeah.
But like, in general,
But
it's just something you're not supposed to look into. Like,
obviously, this is still fiction.
yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're in my head through like a film lens or a literary lens. Just like, don't look at it like that. Like, okay, the bird is Eren in that circumstance for the whole sake of the symbolism and the metaphor.
yeah,
Like, that's what it is. Don't be like, oh, it could have been a coincidence, or Eren is the bird. You don't know if Eren is the bird. He could be, spectating and sent the bird.
yeah.
Like, he doesn't have to be the bird.
Which there is like some kind of evidence for that. Like there was the thing where like 131, the first Armin and Annie scene, where like then that bird just kind of pulls up and he's just kind of like,
It's all smug.
it's like,
The fuck? What you doing, bro? But yeah, it's like people are just either digging way too deep into this or trying to make it way too like realistic. It's like this, at the end of the day, it's still fiction.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think like there's some people too that and there's certain criticisms of this chapter that I agree with, certain ones that I can see people's points. Like the biggest one, like the thing that I think is just bad, like that I will just say is bad, was the stuff with Ymir. Like her having like Stockholm syndrome and everything. Like I think that could have been done better if it had been just a little bit more explained, maybe.
Yeah.
So maybe that'll be something that the anime fixes. I think that, let's see. I mean, some of the stuff, like people were saying that they didn't like how Eren kind of like went and he wasn't like Chad anymore. He kind of was like he was more of a simp, I guess, like where he was like crying about Mikasa and stuff.
But that's who he's been.
Yeah, and also
That's who he is on the inside the whole time.
Yeah, and people were like saying like, I hate how he's like, I don't want her to move on. It's like you realize that like love is not a rational thing. Like
Yeah.
people, like obviously he still made the right choice. He's like, don't tell her this, Armin, but
Yeah.
like this is just how I feel.
Mhm.
And I think most people who are in love probably feel that way at least a little bit. They're like,
Oh yeah.
or like if you're dying. Like, obviously, like, you're married with somebody for, like, 50 years. you might tell them like you should move on, find someone in your last few years while I'm not here, but deep down you're probably thinking like, but I don't like that idea.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's like, I don't know, it's just weird. I mean, we don't like when we're alive, we don't like the idea of our significant other doing things with someone else. I mean, that's just
Like I that whole scene with him saying like, "Oh, I don't want her to move on," that just shows that Aaron's still selfish. Like at the end of the day, he's been selfish this whole series. I want to do this. I want to kill all the Titans. I want this. I want that. That's been him the whole series, and him also being a crybaby goes along with that, right?
yeah,
And people just like, whoop, like
Yeah.
right over their head. And like Aaron is a selfish character. Granted, at the end of the day, his whole grand scheme was a very unselfish thing.
yeah,
But deep down, he is still selfish. That's why he had that like fit at Armin saying like, "Oh, I don't want her to move on."
yeah,
Blah 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 blah. Like that just still goes to show
yeah.
that he's still him. Aaron is still Aaron. He just had to do all that to liberate everyone.
Yeah, and I think that there is at least somewhat of a case to be made that he might have like some kind of mental issues too.
Obviously.
Because I think the combination of Founding Titan and Attack Titan would fuck with you.
Oh yeah.
Because like you just know everything at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have completely opposing views essentially. Like you have like striving for freedom and not like doing the exact opposite of that. Like it's just, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think it's a way to interpret it. Because obviously, like, there were times that he seemed pretty serious about that. Like, it's, yeah, I mean, a lot of it, I think, is more left up to interpretation than people would like. But at the same time, I think seeing it in motion and spoken might be
Better.
easier for people to understand. Because a lot of times, manga just can't get that across. Like,
Just literature in general. Especially in like a comic, it
Yeah.
makes it just that much more difficult. But I also was reading up, a lot of people didn't like Mikasa's ending, but her just kind of ending up sitting by the tree like on Aaron's grave, like a lot of people didn't like that. People, of course, the whole series she's just been very like badass, like independent woman,
yeah.
but then at the end she's the opposite.
Yeah, which I think, I mean, that like, unfortunately, I mean, she was badass, but also very very attached to Eren, and
Yeah.
like that's how she was the whole time, regardless of whatever reason that was. I mean, and honestly, like, going back to what I was saying earlier with her, Eren trying to make the best possible timeline for his friends, no matter what timeline they were in, Mikasa was going to end up sad.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how it was. I mean, you saw the sort of alternate timeline thing in 138, where like it's them on wherever, like that house in the woods,
Yep.
and he would have died of the curse of Ymir.
Yep.
Like, and then she would have been sad. Like, it's literally just delaying that time.
It's just her story arc.
Yeah.
That's the way she was supposed to be. Then, no matter what, even with my whole theory about it, even like Eren being alive, but like no one knows, she'd still be sad because she'd still think he's dead.
Yeah, and like I think it's I mean, partially I think it's the best way to go about it, because it's almost worse. Like if Eren had been like, I'm gonna have 4 years of a relationship with her and then die, it's almost better to just like not have her ever know that he reciprocated.
Yeah.
And then eventually she'll move on. I mean, that's just how it is. Like, most people don't like a person, have them not like you back, and then never move on from that in your entire life.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
she'll move on. I mean, whether that ends up being like that chapter that started off with Jean, like in that city, like just chilling there, and like there was some woman in there with a baby, and it was either, people are saying it's either Mikasa or Peak, like, because it's the only ones that look like them. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, going back to the bird real quick, is that gave the whole Wings of Freedom thing an even deeper meaning.
Yeah.
I mean, now it's not only like the Wings of Freedom that represent like Irwin and the Scouts, trying to go outside the walls and just get more information to help them out, but it's even bigger of a play on words now because of the whole metaphor with Eren. Eren was a bird. Even in the first chapter, I wrote this down. I quoted it exactly from the last panel of the first chapter of the manga. It says, "And the shame of being held captive in a bird cage," and then the last panel of the last chapter is a bird flying away.
Yeah, and it's actually cool too thinking about that, the idea of a bird flying away, like the fact that in the season 2 credits there's a shot of a bird flying into the sun and stuff like that. I mean, like the people that think that this ending was changed like recently, it's like no, I think this is where it was going. Now I think like I think it was said that after Isayama saw Guardians Volume 2, he changed it to, he wanted to make it more like a Yondu thing.
Yeah.
Which I still think that the original ending, which probably would have been everyone died except maybe Armin.
Yeah.
I still think that ending would have made the same point that I was trying to make, like the idea of it being like, oh, this is what hatred pushes people to do. Don't do hatred.
And just have like a huge lesson about it. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, like this one just makes the same point with an outward appearance of happiness that it wouldn't have had otherwise. And obviously because like fans would be pissed if like all their people died. Like,
Oh yeah. Fans get too riled up over things for no reason. What else do I have written here? Went over that. Oh, my new favorite panel is when Levi's leaning up against the rock with all of the scouts and everything, and Erwin and Hanji and all of them. I think that's my new favorite. Because I cannot wait for that to get. They better animate that.
Oh, they will. I mean, he never saluted before that.
Never.
That was his first time doing it, and that you can tell that he's been saving that moment like that.
Oh yeah.
That was nice. And we gotta say, Levi, like in the time skip, looks badass.
Like, he's got the scar, his eyes all white. Yep. But I came up with this. I was thinking about this last night. Is that if you notice, essentially Levi and Hanji are like missing the I can't speak, the opposite eye, right? But then I'm like, if you relate that to Erwin has both eyes, and like essentially his like right hand woman and right hand man are missing the exact opposite eyes.
Man, that is.
Yeah. That's all I have to say.
I think you might be the first person to realize that, and we'll clip that now just so you can
have that clip.
Yeah.
Yeah, I genuinely think like I came up with that last night as I was writing my notes, and I'm like, oh yeah, they have opposite eyes, but then Erwin, essentially the person they worked for and like their best friends, it has both eyes.
Yeah. And the other thing that I noticed,
I just thought about that. Sorry, I just thought about that even more because it just goes to show like the two opposing, like they're Hanji and Levi's like opposing outlooks on the world. Like Levi's was more pessimistic and more negative. Hanji's was more positive,
like almost
and optimistic.
Stupidly positive. Like,
yeah. And they're both interested in two different things. Like he was concerned about like the human side of war. She was concerned about the Titan side of war. But then there was Erwin who saw everything. Yeah. Because he had both eyes.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. I was gonna say that the thing that I noticed, like you know how it's basically been confirmed for a long time that Armin is the narrator of the whole thing.
I have something to say about that, but yes.
Yeah, I think we might have the same thing. Yep. I'm pretty sure like when he's like, we're gonna tell them our story. Mm-hmm. Like the whole time he's been at the peace talks telling their story. Like from
I thought about that. But I actually saw this. I'm not taking credit for this. I saw this online. Is that Attack on Titan is just, it's Mikasa's story through Eren's perspective narrated by Armin.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that.
I mean, like you'd have to obviously give some evidence, but I saw that and wrote that down. I'm like, I thought that was really, really interesting. That it's literally, if you think about it, Mikasa in the end is the only person alive whose story is complete.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, because, I mean, literally, I mean, Armin is going to be working probably his whole life to, you know, get peace. Basically, everybody else is, too.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, really the only person, I mean, yeah, because she, I mean, I don't know, she might do something, because I would doubt, like, someone like her, I don't think she's going to literally spend the rest of her life sitting at that tree.
No, I feel like instead of joining Armin in the others, she'd join Historia.
Maybe. I mean, because that's the one thing. Like, I'm curious about how involved with the Jaegerist army Historia is. Like,
Yeah.
because I mean, obviously she's still their leader,
Mhm.
but like it does like they don't make it seem like she has any sort of like real leadership. Like, it seems like she's more focused on her daughter and less
Yeah.
on like making sure that the army's working. Like, she, I don't know. And then you have the fact that the Azumabitos are still involved. Like,
Yep.
I'm genuinely interested to know what happens,
Mhm.
and I would not be surprised if they did something at some point. Like,
Yes,
you know.
definitely. I mean, like I got a lot last night. I mean, if you think about it, the year too that the manga ended in 854 has like a lot of meaning through multiple mediums. I mean, I forget exactly where the meanings come from, but like it has one meaning where like the number 854 symbolizes like a guardian angel, but also symbolizes like new change, like moving on, more positive or change of habits, being happy, a new chance.
Mm.
And like that happened on the year in the manga 854. So like
Yeah.
even the number of the year has like meaning, like deep down.
Yeah.
It's like Isayama's very smart. He has obviously who knows if he did that on purpose, but like the man is brilliant. He came up with all this stuff that has a very in-depth meaning, and it's probably meant to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this whole thing like has been such a great journey. I mean, the what I think, like, no matter what you think of this ending, I think we can all agree, without beyond a shadow of a doubt, the first 3 seasons will always be seen as a masterpiece.
Oh yeah.
Like, and I would even say, like, if I ever was teaching a storytelling class and I was trying to tell, like, this is how you do mystery, I would say you watch these first 3 seasons. Like,
Yep.
that is the gold standard of how you do mystery. Like, you don't have to like what comes after, but like, I mean, even then, like, you could, even if you don't like, what the ending, you could stop at the ocean scene, leave whatever, because I mean, this ending leaves things up to interpretation. You could leave that up
Yeah.
to interpretation and
Yep.
just say, like, you know, I don't know. I feel like that would be a decent place to leave it. Uh, but obviously, like, this is where it goes. I like it.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, granted, it was safe, it was predictable, but for an amazing series like this, that's kind of what you need.
Yeah. Well, it was safe in a way that like it was safe, yet also I think it was bold.
Yeah. It
'Cause
still made a statement.
it made a statement, and I think the fact that I mean, at least I think that it was intentionally designed to be disappointing to like a big amount of people. I mean, Isama literally was like, most people are gonna hate the ending.
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, the fact that he's using that to almost make a point, I think is great. Now, I think the anime, when that comes around, I think it needs to make that point a little bit more explicitly. I don't think I think most people won't put in the time to reflect like I have, or I mean,
Yeah.
you read it a little later than I did, so you haven't had as much time, but you're not going to
Definitely.
get that sort of, reflection. And
Once I see it animated, I'm gonna get a much better grip on this. I mean, I feel like I only have like half a grip. Like like three of my fingers are only gripped around it, and not
yeah,
the last two.
but I think that or really, like, if they added in a scene maybe of Armin talking at the peace talks, and like, he's finishing telling the story, and then maybe he just reflects, like, we shouldn't hate each other anymore, like literally explain what I said earlier on in this podcast, some way, just so people realize, like, oh yeah, okay, that was the point.
Yep.
Hopefully that'll be better. But yeah, and I do have a few things that I want to say after, so we're gonna do a break now. We'll be back in a few seconds. All right, and we have returned from our little break. I hope that there was nothing for you there, because we have nothing for you there.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna get back into the discussion. I know you have a few more points. I know I have a few more points. So
Yeah.
let's go. If you want to do yours first.
Just one thing I really liked is that how the past Titan shifters were like brought forth, because it gives way more depth to Titan shifters than we had before. I mean, there's like the crocodile Titan, and then people are naming like the older, at least older looking Titans, like the ancient like attack Titan, the ancient.
Yeah, that was
Titan.
cool. I mean, obviously that was a little earlier, but yeah.
But like that was just a general thing. Like I thought that was so fucking cool.
Yeah, there's people that have been nitpicking that though, because they're like, oh, they should have all died. I mean, that's ridiculous. Like, you know, it's like the thing where like you have a bunch of powerful enemies, then like they all get power reduced, so that it's like
It's called getting nerfed by the plot.
essentially, yeah.
A lot of I could give you 5 examples probably off the top of my head right now of that happening in other mediums.
Yeah.
Like it just happens.
But I would even say like they weren't at their full power. Like it's not like they were fully sentient. Like I would assume that a lot of them wouldn't choose. Like for instance, like I mean, other than the fact that Bertolt saved Annie, that was a little weird. But like most of the time, they were just mindlessly fighting. Like you know, it's not like they were fully making decisions.
Yeah, I don't know. I hate when people nitpick stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like characters getting like and beings get nerfed by plot all the time, and like some people die to the plot, some people just get like power reduction by the plot.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, in a medium like this, in any cinematic or any literature out there, the plot is God.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, for example, Thor's in Vinland Saga. Man was so fucking powerful that he was just like, kill me.
Yeah. Or
like,
you even have like all of the like how in Endgame you don't like his little minion guys, like I forget what they're called, but like Thanos' dudes that like aren't fully just like, cannon fodder, but they're like up there a little bit.
Yeah.
Those people, like they're in the final battle, they don't do shit. Like, they probably just die, like, but
oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's the sort of thing you just can't let it affect your enjoyment. And I do think that there's a certain level of people that didn't like the ending are searching for things to like about it. People that did like it, or no, sorry, if they didn't like it, they're searching for more things to not like. If they did like it, they're searching for things to like more, which is kind of where I was, because like, I was gonna say this earlier, but my whole interpretation that I gave earlier in the show, that I'm pretty sure is right, took me a long time to figure out, which is why I want them to do that scene with Armin explaining the theme in the anime, because I think that it can't be something like that. Like, it can't take you that long to figure out what to take away from the story, which part of it I like, because I do like things that make you think, but also I don't want people trashing the ending because they don't think. Or at least they didn't think about this particular interpretation, because I think a lot of people, like, it depends on what you went into the chapter expecting, and some people went into the chapter thinking that like the only way that the story could ever make sense is if the rumbling gets complete.
Yep.
And I think that's because they're used to stories getting wrapped up nicely. And of course, like, if the rumbling was complete, it would have been a dark way to wrap it up, but it would have been wrapped up nicely, where this is like, there's still a big amount of unknowns. We don't know what could happen.
Yeah. I mean, just people always, this goes for anything. They have an idea in their head, they're sticking with it. And if it's anything but what's in their head, they don't like it. I mean, that's my biggest criticism with like anime fandoms. Like, for example, like My Hero fandom is absolutely horrible because they have all these like weird social expectations between character interactions in it, and it ruins it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of thing. And I do think, to a degree, I mean, this has been talked about a lot recently, but fandom, or like the way the theory culture kind of ruins things in a way, because quite frankly, we're better at coming up with things than people. Like, you have hundreds, thousands, however many people coming together and looking for things in the story, piecing together a theory. It's always some crazy shit. Like, you look back at WandaVision, the stuff people were coming up with, and then it was it wasn't anywhere near that.
The one difference between, like, I was going to talk about this, between like Attack on Titan, theories from Attack on Titan, they're just taking things from the past, right? The past in the manga, because like that's an original. When like WandaVision was based off of something.
No, and that's true, but
which there's different causes. Now, like, theorizing WandaVision, that was okay. Theorizing an Attack on Titan, something that's original and like it's coming out before our eyes, don't theorize the original stuff. Theorize the things where it's like, it's based off of something. It's like Marvel movies, anything like that, like the Harry Potter movies, like it's based off of something. Like you can try and guess, like, well, what are they gonna put in the movie, so on and so forth. Like things that are based off of stuff, theorize that. Thing that's literally being created before our eyes, leave that alone.
Yeah, and not to say that you can't come up with things like, oh, maybe this will happen, but like,
Yeah.
but don't get so ingrained in it that you can't accept anything else.
Exactly.
I mean, if you have and maybe it's just the fact that this was a monthly manga, like the fact that they'd have so much time to theorize, like because you don't really see that in the anime side of things. Like honestly, I think that's manga people too, like harassing Mappa and stuff for using CGI. The anime fans are usually just happy. They're
getting it,
and they don't have as much time to analyze the crap out of things. Like you think about it, it takes 2 months of real time for an episode to get made of manga content, essentially.
Bro, do you know how much? I was reading this last night. Do you know how much a single anime episode costs on average now?
How much?
It's about $150,000 to make one episode.
Yeah, sounds about right to me. I mean, those numbers. I mean, really, anything animation, it's expensive as hell, because to make it on any sort of reasonable time scale, you have to pay everybody. Obviously, you have to pay for like the software,
resources, all that type of stuff. But and then I saw another one. On average, or like a 12-episode anime is around $1 million.
Yep.
To make, and like that is insane. And now, of course, especially in today's culture, maybe not 10 years ago, or 20 years ago, but they obviously make that money back with ease nowadays.
Yeah. As long as it's like well received.
Obviously,
yeah. I mean, yeah, which is why I hope that they don't decide to change the ending for the anime. I just want them to do.
That could be rough.
I want them to find a way to make it come off better, which I think easily. Like you could add in a couple scenes, maybe add in even just a couple lines of dialogue would make. I mean, at least make it better, and like at least it would leave people that currently don't like it, at least like able to accept it.
Exactly. They should make it easier to receive.
Yeah.
Almost, and make people, because like I know a lot of people that are like this, but they watch like movies and TV shows and they only think about it on a very surface level, which only like, granted, there's some bliss in that. I mean, ignorance is bliss, not really looking into it, but you learn so much more about things by actually digging deep into it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Naruto is like, oh, the fights in Naruto are amazing. Which they are. But that's what Naruto's not just about the fights.
Yeah.
It's one of the most philosophical animes I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's really what it is most of the time. Like, really, like, action is great on its own, but it's better when there's some kind of meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of moments throughout Attack on Titan that I'm like, yeah, like, just seeing the action, like, it would be cool. Like, for instance, how I showed the Levi versus Kenny, like, first fight to Aiden, and he thought it looked cool. But, obviously, like, in context, it's a lot cooler, because like, everything that was happening.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. But it's just annoying, because I know so many, like I've talked to people about this, about something that's really in depth. I don't remember exactly what, but he thought it was good because like it was just cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think we were talking about Fairy Tail, whatever. He's like, Fairy Tail, it's great. It's like, no, Fairy Tail is like slightly below average. The only basis on it is like friendship, or like something just ridiculous and cliche.
Yeah.
Like, there has absolutely no meaning to it whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's below average. Granted, like the power systems and like some of the characters were cool and the fights were great. That was it.
Yeah. Which I do want to see, like, the current manga, like the Japanese fans' reactions to the ending. I haven't really heard that, because I know that quite frankly, in America, the manga readers are the most hardcore fans.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
and from what I've heard, like people that are more casual fans, who for whatever reason have seen the ending, like it, like because they don't think about it that much. Like they've just seen like, oh yep, the characters are happy. Eren died. That's sad. Like and obviously then there's the people that think about it a little bit, uh, and then didn't like it, or there's people that like think about it a lot, admittedly do some mental gymnastics like I kind of had to do to
Mm-hmm.
then explain why they liked it. Like I mean there's a lot of like if you're not on a surface level,
Yeah.
which is why I think like basically they have to make the anime more clear, not for the casual viewer
No.
but for the person who's like in underwater in the shallow end.
Yes.
I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely agree with you there. I mean, like you said earlier, I didn't have as much time as you to like sit with it. My opinion could alter. I don't think it's gonna change like drastically, but like it could alter a month from now. But like it did. The ending did what it was supposed to do. There was a lot of meaning behind it, regardless of what anyone says. There was a ton of meaning behind it, and still like you said, left it open ended.
Yeah. Yeah, and also, I mean, I think there's something to be said for leaving things like relatively open ended. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, I like that in some ways. Like, I think, I mean, for instance, the way that people were getting like way too deep into the shipping wars, like you weren't doing this, but I like when the scans first got sent to the Kodansha, and
Yeah.
everything, I was like constantly refreshing the spoilers hashtag on Twitter, and people were just going way too hard. I mean, it was like Eren and Historia people like trashing on Eren and Mikasa people, and I'm just kind of there like really,
Shut the fuck up.
and get, like I was with Armin and Annie going into the thing, but I was like, first of all, if it doesn't happen, like if one of them gets killed or something, I can accept that as long as it's not like just kind of left on the table like nothing ever happened with it. Um, and like
Yeah.
but people were just going way too hard to the point where they wouldn't enjoy it. Like if it's like, oh, if Eren doesn't end up with Historia, then it's bad. It's like,
Yeah.
what are you on? Like and anything like with the Armin and Annie stuff, like that was
That's
th-
reasonable.
there
That's not
were
even.
well
Like,
it
I don't know. Like I thought it was reasonable. Like obviously you probably looked at that a little bit more. You pay more attention to Armin than I do, but like I could obviously see the signs of like that whole possible
yeah, I
relationship.
mean, even back in season 1,
But
like,
but even still, I was just kind of like, it was nothing jarring.
yeah,
It was nothing that was like oh like
Yeah.
like it was nothing like that. It was just kind of like there might be
it was a natural
like,
it made sense enough. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
like it came out like people were like, oh, it's a trash ship, it came out of nowhere. It's like, no, I mean she has reasons to like him. He has admittedly like kind of confusing with like Bertolt's memories
Yeah.
reasons, but like reasons,
yeah
so it works. uh and obviously like because it's not really like Isayama, like he's not big on like actively showing romance stuff. I mean, I think
no.
he's only shown it twice. One was that random couple in season 1 that died,
yeah
dead.
yeah.
And then there was obviously Mikasa,
And,
kissing the decapit.
yeah, I thought that was that scene. Like I don't know, that made me uncomfortable. I'm
Yeah,
not
that
gonna lie.
was a little weird, but
I was like, oh, relax,
But-
girl. Like
I mean that basically like he doesn't like showing it that much. But there was
Yeah.
enough like looking at the fact that like basically every single panel where Armin and Annie are in the same thing, she's like staring at him intently.
yeah
Especially the ending one. I'm like, yeah, it's enough so like if you hated the ship, like you thought it was awful, you could just pretend that it wasn't a thing. Like
Yeah.
it's not shoved in your face. But if you like it or are just okay with it, like you can
you'd be like, oh, okay,
like something's probably going on with them.
yeah. I mean, me and you aren't big on like the ships and all that. Like,
Oh, I hate it.
yeah,
Anything,
so do I.
like I have yeah, I mean that's probably my least favorite thing about shows
that's
like
probably the
My
most
Hero.
toxic thing
Oh my
about
god.
fandoms is like the ships, because people focus way too much on the character interactions and they miss what's actually important about the series.
Yeah, I mean it's like it's just not fun at all. I think you're right. I mean people take it too far. And I feel like there used to be a time where it wasn't that bad,
No.
but like I feel like recently it's just gotten worse because now obviously you can make communities around it.
People
get
got
your
more
site-
time on their hands nowadays too, so it's just like Why you're thinking about the wrong things in the damn show. Like, think about something that's like way more important. Because people get upset at the plot. Be like, oh, this so and so, like this happened because of plot. It's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. It happened because of plot, because it's part of the fucking plot.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think was gonna happen?
Yeah. Oh,
like,
God.
holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, it just, fandoms just annoy the hell out of me.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I've been trying to be as distant from fandoms as possible.
Same.
Like, I haven't found one fandom. No, the only wholesome fandom I've ever been in is the KSP, like the Kerbal Space Program fandom, because those, like, literally, it's just full of people that are like, it's a very quiet game about little green dudes going on rockets. Like, there's not much to be mad about.
Yeah. Like, if you have a problem with it, you're fucking stupid.
Well, it's like,
why?
if you don't like the game, don't play. Like, yeah, I mean,
like, why are you on this Reddit page right now?
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
You don't see people being like, oh my god, update 1.11.3 was shit.
Yeah.
It was the worst thing I've ever seen. The game's ruined permanently. Like,
oh my god. The plot is shit now.
Yeah. Oh my god, they added in a new planet that wasn't there before.
It's fucking ridiculous, dude. Oh
But-
my god. The one part that I tend to stand aside on is like analyzing the characters, which is one of the purposes of the story. So like a lot of the characters, and I'm gonna use Reiner as an example, and like we've used Armin for this example in the past. It's just ironic.
Yeah.
It's just the irony between a lot of the characters is insane. I mean, like, you obviously know Armin. He's the most peaceful character, yet he has the most destructive Titan.
Mm-hmm.
Reiner has the most durable Titan, but is the most broken character.
And he was like, please kill me, good sir. Yeah.
Bro, he shoved a barrel down his throat. Like he's the most broken character and has the most durable Titan.
Yep.
But I've also noticed at the end he changed the use of his Titan to be more so of what it's supposed to be, like more protective or whatever. Like, whenever he uses Titan in the last 9 chapters, at the end of the fight, the Armor Titan was obliterated.
Yeah, I mean, literally, like, he was within Armin's nuke, like in 137. I mean, just, yeah, he was fucked up.
But it was so cool to see his arc, and like he kind of like regained himself at the end there. I mean, I think that started with him telling John what actually happened to Marco. I cannot wait for that to be animated.
Yeah,
that's gonna be great.
Gonna be good. I mean, I think there were some people like they're like, oh, it's whack when he was like sniffing Historia's handwriting.
But that's who Reiner is.
Yeah, I'm like, I mean, he's gonna be like that forever. Yeah, I mean,
It was funny. That's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah, and
it's supposed to be funny.
That, and I gotta say, John's line where he's like, they're like, why do you care so much about your hair? He's like, I'm trying to look good for the girls in the history books. I'm like, that's a pretty dope line. Like
he's kind of valid on that. I mean, there are gonna be history books about it.
Yeah.
So it's like you got a point there.
Yeah.
But it's Reiner from reading the manga has become one of my favorite characters. My favorite character is probably Erwin, Eren, Zeke, Reiner.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's probably Reiner, Armin. I guess Eren kind of, but I feel like I like how Reiner like was more on the latter half of his character arc, like, because obviously Eren and Reiner have similar arcs, similar.
I mean, that's the point of their characters.
Yeah. But like, Reiner's at more of a, I guess, reasonable point where like, because he really could have not, like, he wasn't in as much of a position like where he didn't have a choice as Eren was. But,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean.
And then Zeke. I don't know if I liked how Zeke died or I just hated how Zeke died.
Yeah, I mean, that I could see from the Zeke fan perspective, it's tough, but obviously from the Levi fan perspective, you're like, yes.
Exactly. Like, he was like, "Hey guys, I fucked up." Dead.
Yep.
Literally, like the whole point of Zeke is for people just use him. They just use him the whole time. His whole life, he's just been used.
Yep.
And it makes me feel so bad because it's like, I kind of like relate to him on some sort of level where it's like you have all these expectations thrown at you, and then like at the end you crack at them to do the exact opposite of what you were meant to do, of what you've been told you're gonna do your whole childhood.
Yeah.
But then even at the end, people still use you to get the exact opposite of what your goal was.
Yeah. Yeah, which obviously, like, yeah, it's interesting too, because, like, I mean, the fact that Zeke's plan and Aaron's plan were, like, basically the exact opposite of that dilemma I talked about at the beginning of the show, where, like, Zeke's plan technically is more moral, but even that, I mean, it's an interesting thing. Like, I was watching this political guy, Vosh. He was doing his analysis, because a lot of people think that the show is, like, overtly fascist.
Okay.
And he was doing an analysis, and he basically says, like, I don't think, I mean, it's not pro-fascist. Like, every single character that was ever radical is, like, literally destroyed. Like, like, Reiner was radical, destroyed. Gabby was radical, worldview totally shattered.
Yep.
Eren was radical on that side. Like, it's very anti-fascist. Like, anytime that fascism's there, it's not presented in a good light.
No.
So really, he's just like, no, it's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, people are like, the fact that, like, oh, it's like the Eldians are supposed to be like the Jews, but they actually are a threat. Like, that means that, like, oh, that's saying, like, the Jews were a threat. It's like, no, it's just an interesting a scenario.
Yeah.
The fact that, like, alt-writers think of it that way is because they're going to think about things in a way that, benefits them.
Obviously.
Like, that's just how they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's just... Oh, Zeke's character, like, I wish just something... Like, that's one of the things I would change. Is, like, I would rather have Zeke have a happy ending because his story was so fucked up from the start. Like, I feel like he's the one character who, like, truly deserved at least a content ending.
Yeah, which I think partially, like... I mean, he kind of got that because he could let go of, like... he was able to appreciate life a little bit more at the end. And obviously, like... I kind of would have preferred... Like, I like how it was because... Obviously, like... because we didn't really learn about Zeke until later in the show. And, like, obviously, like, we wanted Levi to be able to avenge Erwin in a way. And, like, everybody. So it's... Yeah, that's a tough one to point down, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like I wish they could have done more with him. Like he should have had more of an actual use rather than being used.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know, it just never sat right with me. I thought it would be funny if, like, all this stuff happened and Zeke was alive and, like, him and Levi became friends. Like, that'd be kind of funny. Yeah. That'd be more character development just to throw in at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting. First of all, I gotta say, I'm looking forward to seeing the scene with, like, him in the wheelchair animated, because I just want to see Onyan Kompon, like, with he has, like, I think the white suit on, like, that look. He looks like he's about to just, like, rock that suit. Like, he I mean, honestly, he's a cool dude. Like, you don't really see much of him, but he's cool.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then I guess the last thing I wanted to, or the last thing that I can remember wanting to mention, as I say this, I'm gonna check my notes so I don't regret.
Checked everything off on my list. So,
but yeah, the stuff with like Bertolt, that reveal where, like, Eren kind of, like, directed the Dynafritz Titan away.
Yep.
I mean, people were very mad about that, but I don't think that was too bad of a thing. I mean, like, sorry about that, guys. We just had a minor technical difficulty with our SD card, so the rest of this video is probably gonna not have it. Well, it isn't. We don't know when the video is gonna cut out, so yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I thought that the Dynafritz thing, I thought that made sense enough. I think ultimately, like, I think his mom not dying and everything not going the way it was probably would have ended in a bad way where, like, Marley would have just kept attacking. He wouldn't have had the motivation to keep going. It would have been interesting. I mean, that would be, like, you could write a whole alternate universe thing where, like, Bertolt was eaten, and then, like,
that'd be insane.
Well, then there'd be some drama where, like, then Dinah would be a human again, and then, like, probably go find Grisha.
And Grisha would be like, with, like, Eren's arm and like what?
Yeah. And then let's see. I think. I would like to see a little bit more in the anime of when Armin convinced the Marlians to like not shoot them, but like I can accept there not being more of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, ultimately, I guess my final point with all that stuff considered, like I said, if you disagree with me, please put it in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
Oh, definitely. It's been interesting hearing other people's takes on this.
Yeah.
Other than when they're just being purely ignorant.
Yeah, please be respectful. Don't just call us fucking idiots or anything.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, we're interested to hear. We'll either respond to you in the comments if we want to, or we'll do a response section next episode if we have nothing else to talk about. Yes, nice virus threat protection things. So yeah, this episode has spiraled out of control technology wise. But I was gonna say, yeah, no matter what you feel about the ending, this show was very much more about the journey. It was a fantastic journey. Even if the destination was underwhelming, there was a lot there. Don't go calling it like a 4 out of 10 anime now just because the ending wasn't great. I mean, most anime don't have amazing endings themselves. I mean,
No.
you just it's fine as what it is. I liked it. Do you have final thoughts before we give our ranking?
I mean, I thought it was, obviously I kept saying this, predictable and safe. But then again, if you have such an amazing series like this, and it's great in basically every aspect, going safe is probably the best route. Granted, some things leading up to it, like I mentioned, should have been changed.
Yeah.
Or he could have added like a smaller, like little aspect in at the end, like I mentioned earlier too.
Or like I mentioned, I mean,
Yeah, exactly. Just like a little more. But like that's all I can say is that there could have just been a little more.
Yeah, and I think that I mean, I should say like predictability in a show like this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Excuse me. I think that I mean, obviously, like if you look back at a lot of the stuff in season 1, season 2, like the hints, a lot of it you're like, okay, that actually, like, taking notice of that, it is predictable, like what ends up happening. And if you can interpret it right. So I mean, being predictable, like the way that we're looking at things leading up to this chapter, like, I mean, I predicted it almost perfectly.
Yep.
Just because I think I analyzed it the right way.
Yeah.
Which is what, like, if I had been back, season 1, if I had analyzed things the right way, like I would have known, like, oh yeah, like you can look back. There's so many hints that Reiner and Bertolt were Titans as well, like just because of the interactions with Annie.
Yep.
But like I didn't analyze it properly back then because I was a middle schooler and an idiot. And
I mean, like I picked up on it when I first was watching through it, obviously. But it's like if you were to go back like you did and rewatch it, it's like,
yeah. And honestly, anytime that I rewatch, I pick up more things. I mean,
that's the glory of the show. You always pick up more things. It's one of those shows where the rewatchability is through the roof. You're always going to notice something different and new.
Yeah.
It's just the way the show's built.
Like when it's done, I'd love to do another rewatch because I think like some of you guys, if you're mad at the ending, you don't like it, you're like, oh, I'm never reading this again. It's like maybe read it again. I mean, like maybe knowing where it's going, you might actually pick up on things, maybe themes you didn't realize before, stuff like that. I don't think it's worth saying like, oh yeah, I'm never doing this again, Yeah, I mean, my perspective, obviously, like, I respect that people have different opinions on it, but yeah, I wouldn't hate on it that much. And especially like if you really hated it and even what I said didn't make it somewhat better for you, like I've had some people, my interpretation made them like it better, but like if this didn't help you, or like either of our thoughts didn't help you, just don't attack Isayama.
No.
I mean, he told the story he wanted to tell. He made the point that he wanted to tell, even though it was a little bit, out there and everything.
Yeah.
But
I feel like even in the anime, like when they're wrapping that up, he could write like an epilogue.
Yeah, or just
or
like
something.
I mean,
just to throw
he
in
has
at the
always
end.
thought that it's the, it's the final product.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's things that weren't in the manga that he literally told them, like, add this in.
Yeah.
Because he realized like afterwards, he's like, oh, I wish I could have done that differently. Like, I saw an interview with him where he literally said, like, yeah, I like with the anime because there's times that I think the question they asked him was like, do you ever regret things that you've done? And he's like, yeah, there's times that I've done things in the manga and I'm like, oh, I don't like that I did that, and I'll just fix it for the anime.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. So I think the anime is definitely the ultimate means to an end for him.
Yeah.
And I also think it'd be kind of cool if sometime in the future, because I don't know, who knows what Isayama's plans are, but it'd be kind of cool for him to do like a Death in the Family type of thing, to where it's like, whether it's animated or written, where he kind of shows alternate endings that could have happened, and then like have fans vote on an ending.
Or I mean, they could do, I think I've said this to you before, I would love to see them do, like, you know, I assume that they want to do a movie with this. I hope it's not the ending, but they could do something where it's like alternate universe endings as movies.
Yeah.
That would be fine with me. And I'd love to see what happens after. I want to know, like, the peace talks, maybe. I mean, because there's a lot they could do with
it's like
the
an
story.
epilogue, I feel like, in the anime would be perfect.
Well, yes, but I'm even saying, like, if they wanted to do a sequel or something, like, it wouldn't be as good. I can tell you now it wouldn't be. But,
hell no.
But if they did do something like, you know, showing, like, it would, you know, it'd be very different.
If anything, it'd have to be like I've seen not a volume 0, because that'd be like a prequel, but like it'd have to be something like that. It would have to be like that one book.
Yeah.
I couldn't see that going any further than like one volume.
I could see. Yeah, you're right. Or maybe like a light novel.
Or a light novel, exactly. Yeah. But I definitely couldn't see it being like a whole new
Or
series.
honestly, even just an OVA on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot that. Yeah. I mean, and yeah, like I think you said this earlier. I kind of agree. Like until it's animated, it's not complete. Mm-hmm. Like no matter how you feel, like you might be a big manga reader, manga is never the final product, especially with this show. So hold your judgment till the end. Don't say like the show's bad, because the show's not done yet. I mean, you know, there's a lot. It's not. And this is something too that could translate a lot better to animation.
Oh, so, definitely.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Do you have any more thoughts?
No, that's pretty much it.
All right. Well, I will say, just based on my interpretations, I would say that the show overall, well, like I should say like the manga overall, and hopefully this show overall, when that comes out, 10 out of 10. Like
yes.
Now I should say like 10 out of 10 isn't perfect. Nothing's ever perfect.
No.
The ending, I think, is more like somewhere between a 7 and an 8.
I'd give it the ending an 8.
Yeah, somewhere like I
just because it achieved what it was meant to achieve.
I'll just bandwagon and say 8. I think because
it achieved what it was supposed to achieve.
Yeah, I mean there are some minor problems with it.
Yeah,
but that can be fixed. Like I still think it's a very fixable ending. I think it would just take minor things, like even just good direction from Mappa that could do it.
I mean, I'm giving right now my experience from reading from 117 to 139. I'm giving that a 9.
Okay.
Just that experience. Overall, I'd give like the ending about an 8, like I just said. Mm-hmm. But I hope by the end of by the time it's animated and everything, that it is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, and the whole story overall, what's your?
Because it's not animated yet, I'm giving it a 9.
Okay.
Once it's animated, because like you said, Isayama's like, oh, change this, oh, add this in here. When it's getting animated, just goes to show that it could. Like, I just want to leave room for improvement. Yeah,
which is fair. And of course, I mean, we'll probably be reviewing that when that comes out.
Oh, we definitely will be.
I mean, that's going to be a while, and I really hope that they don't do a movie for it. Like,
no.
That would be bad. Like I said, they could do alternate universe movies if they want, but like, let's keep the show ending in the show.
Yep. And keep that like what's actually canon, and what is true.
Yep.
But yeah. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so, thank you guys. This was probably our longest episode yet. Mm-hmm. We're sorry that the video cut out at the end there. And obviously, there's a lot of clips here, so if you watched a clip, joined, then came over here, please subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. All that information will be down in the description. also down in the description there should be a link to a form, like a Google form, where you can sign up to do advertisements.
I feel like we should also do one for like questions.
Yeah, anything like that. Like we're gonna be developing that. Things like that, just to get more interaction, stuff to do between the breaks. That we have to take, like we just, due to multiple reasons, we have to take breaks. So, but right now, obviously, there's not much for you guys between them. So we're trying to do that for you. And I mean, if you guys just like our thoughts, I mean, even if you disagree, whatever, like we talk about anime, movies, TV, manga. Like we don't really do that. This is
when we see fit.
I mean, this was like a more of a special case. We could even do video games, like if we both played the same game. Yeah, I mean, basically, if you're a nerd, subscribe.
Yeah.
You like hearing us talk. I mean, yeah.
Also, if you have any name ideas, feel free to comment them.
Yeah.
We genuinely don't know because we come up with something and then it's like either too cringy or it's already taken.
Yep. And we'll obviously, if we take your name, we'll credit you.
Yeah.
You'll be like a glorious member of our podcast. We'll even, I don't know, put your name at the end or something, like how they do the Patreon stuff. But yeah, we got a lot in the works, and obviously, like, as life begins to get a little bit easier soon, we'll be able to put a lot more effort towards this. I mean, school stuff's almost over for us both, so yeah, we got a lot on the way. And yeah, I mean, hopefully said everything. Just check the description. All the stuff you might need or want is down there. And obviously, end cards and everything. More episodes if you want to see our discussions from last week, future weeks. Yeah.
Peace.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yeah.
I was just like, you sounded done. I was just like, we out.
Yeah, that's not how we normally end things here, as I making another annoying noise. Man, yeah, we fell apart here, but all right, yeah.
The technical difficulties just ruined it.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a pain in the ass editing this one.
Yeah, probably. But anyway, yeah, so it's been a great discussion, guys. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.